It wasn't an algorithm. You need to understand that first. The images and sounds you were shown, the cryptic numbers that appeared in your recommendations, that was a signal, a tuning fork resonating with something already inside of you. You were chosen because you are one of the few who senses that the reality we see is just a fraction of the whole story, a beautiful, hypnotic, but fragmented echo. For months, you've been collecting those echoes, feeling their power without understanding the source. Consider this video the first translation of that source. This is not another theory or a guess. This is the blueprint, the very architecture of the philosophy you've been subconsciously drawn to. What you are about to see is the key that elevates you from a mere spectator of the mystery to an active participant in its unfolding. The puzzle pieces are in your hands. Now, let's begin to assemble them.
Long before time itself, before any conceivable beginning, there was silence. This was not the fragile, fleeting pause between two notes that we know today. It was a sovereign stillness that weighed heavily upon itself, devouring every unformed thought and swallowing every conceivable sound. Yet, as you well know, nothingness is inherently restless. It is the nature of the void to empty itself until it inevitably overflows. Across ancient cosmologies, this beginning took the shape of an unfathomable abyss, a primordial night. The Greeks called it chaos, but don't misunderstand me, not disorder, not confusion. Rather, a fertile void, a mute matrix waiting to be challenged. The Egyptians spoke of noon, the motionless, stagnant waters, where not even a reflection dares to disturb the stillness. And then there is the Tzimtzum of Jewish mysticism, the withdrawal of God, the contraction of the divine to make space for creation, a paradox tinged with cosmic irony, as if omnipresence had to step aside to allow room for something lesser. But all of this slumbering potential could not remain stagnant forever. At some moment, a subtle vibration ripples across the glassy surface of silence, not quite a sound, but the thrilling prelude to one. And so emerges the Logos. It is not a cry, not a desperate scream, but rather a resolute whisper, an eternal syllable that repeats itself, folds in on itself, multiplies. A sound that builds, an echo that unravels. Who or what dared to disturb the slumber of the abyss? The myths diverge. Some say it was a god, others a thought. Or perhaps it was the silence itself, tired of being alone. Don't seek answers. Every answer is just another question in disguise. In the Rig Veda, for example, the cosmos blossoms from an absolute non-being so profound that not even the gods know what preceded it. And when that first word was finally spoken, it did not merely name the world, it forged it. It whispered the concept of light, and brilliance kindled like a sudden realization in the mind. It called out to water, and currents began to flow into the unknown. It murmured the name of time, ironically condemning itself to an eternity of waiting. Yet we must remember that every act of creation is also an act of violence. Every spoken word acts as a blade, carving a fracture into the perfect, seamless body of silence. By naming and defining, the verb inevitably divides and isolates, severing things from their whole. The world, as they say, was born, but it might be more accurate to call the universe merely the scar left behind by that first profound wound. And what are we then? We are nothing but the lingering echoes of that original sound, fleeting fragments lodged firmly between the teeth of time. If you close your eyes and let your thoughts untangle, you can almost hear that ancient whisper still vibrating in the background. But do not listen too closely, for where the stark edges of the word end, the nurturing shadows of the womb of Mother begin. Beneath the thin, fabricated veneer of lightning bolts, hammers, and orderly male deities, the primordial chaos still breathes, and it wears the fearsome face of a mother. These are not the gentle, nurturing mothers of bedtime stories. They are the dark, devouring matrices of the cosmos. Think of the Sumerian Tiamat, a boiling ocean of destruction torn apart to build the earth. Of Gaia, the bearer of all things. Or of Nut, the Egyptian sky who swallows the sun each night only to birth it anew. These are mothers who devour. Mothers who allow themselves to be torn open to give shape to what will come. Yet, without them, no world could exist. There would be no light, no time, no sound. And from these dark wombs comes the cosmic egg, a fragile, silent shell suspended in the void, encasing the infinite. In many cosmologies, the cosmos is born from an egg, closed, compact, silent. The Orphics tell of Phanes, the god of light, who emerges from a silver egg laid by night. The Phoenicians speak of a cosmic egg floating in chaos, from which the first being arises. Even in China, the myth of Pangu tells of a universe in the shape of an egg, where yin and yang dance closely together until the moment of separation. And herein lies the supreme irony. Because an egg is closed, yes, but destined to break open. It is both prison and promise. You may believe you have evolved and emerged from this shell, but the truth is that the cosmos has never ceased being born. We are caught in an endless gestation, a hatching that never fully arrives. Perhaps this is why the Dark Mother smiles. She knows the shell will never fully shatter, for a cosmos truly born would no longer know what to become. And have you ever paused to wonder who exactly pulls the strings of this endlessly unfolding reality? I mean the secret architects, the artisans of being, the quiet fabricators of what we dare to call reality. Every myth worth its salt has its demiurge, a figure who shapes and orders, who drafts with a steady hand the maps of the possible. But take care not to confuse the demiurge with the absolute creator. The demiurge is a craftsman, not a god. He works with whatever material lies at hand, often secondhand, often recycled from broken dreams and squandered possibilities. Plato envisioned him as an earnest but doomed copyist, squinting at a perfect ideal he could never quite replicate, while the Gnostics saw him as a tragically ironic figure, an ignorant, lesser god who believes his coarse theater of shadows is an absolute masterpiece. A blind craftsman who fancies himself an artist, a deception that takes itself far too seriously. His true genius, however, lies not in his creation, but in his persuasion, in making you believe that this world is the only one, that this reality is the one true reality. The demiurge erects a protective shell around you, meticulously instilling the belief that beyond the curtain, there is no backstage. And you believe it. Oh, how you believe it. This orderly cosmos is ultimately a conscious illusion, a shared fiction designed to tame the unbearable, nameless void of pure chaos. It is a deception so flawlessly crafted that we fall hopelessly in love with it, craving its comforting lies rather than facing the terrifying reality beyond the veil. But every now and then, something leaks through the cracks in the fabric, a dream that refuses to be catalogued, a déjà vu that slips through the rules, an echo that shouldn't be there. The demiurge is skilled, yes, but not infallible. His creations wobble, they tremble, they whisper. They speak to you of an elsewhere. And then perhaps you begin to sense that the order surrounding you is not the true order, but only a staged performance, a way to tame the chaos, to sweeten it, to make it digestible. A deception so well crafted that we end up loving it. And heaven forbid anyone tries to tear away its veils. We only end up craving even more illusions. Please, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying the Demiurge is malevolent. On the contrary, he is a generous artist, a compassionate illusionist. He offers you a reality in which to take refuge, an order by which to be lulled. Because pure chaos, the true void, is unbearable. It takes courage to look beyond the curtain. And to navigate this beautifully orchestrated illusion, we rely on the quaint misconception of linear time, an arrow shooting neatly from birth toward death. How adorably mistaken. Myths, which understand the mechanics of eternity far better than any mechanical clock, reveal that time does not merely flow, it coils. It dances in spirals that stretch, twist, and fold back upon themselves, ensuring that every eternal return brings you back to a starting point that has subtly, inexorably changed. The Maya understood this as an intricate weaving of cyclical calendars, moving like serpents intertwining days and eras. In the Hindu tradition, the breath of Brahma spans billions of years in a single kalpa, dissolving and renewing the cosmos over and over again. And then there's the Ouroboros, the great serpent biting its own tail, reminding us that time is a self-devouring paradox. And when you feel that sudden, dizzying vertigo of déjà vu, it is simply time playing its tricks, briefly folding its spirals to brush your consciousness against a moment that has happened before. But you, prisoner of linearity, struggle to see it. And even the spiral, as it winds, has a direction, an ascent or a descent, a sense of progression or regression. Thus, every cosmogony doesn't tell just one origin, but infinite origins, infinite creations. The world wasn't born just once. It is born every time you look at it, every time you think it, every time you remember it. An infinite series of creations winding upward or downward, ensuring the spiral never fully closes. Listen again. There is a sound that vibrates beneath the surface of things, an echo, faint and intermittent, like the wing beat of a bird you can never quite see. And yet, it's there. It has always been there. The myths of creation are nothing more than attempts to capture that echo, to name it, to cage it. But every name is too narrow. Every word shatters. What remains are only fragments, shards of a song older than any language. And we, poor gatherers of fragments, bend over these ruins like lost archaeologists, trying to piece together a whole that perhaps never existed, a puzzle without a reference image. The ancients knew that true knowledge is never passed down whole. It hides, it shatters, it scatters like ash in the wind. The deepest knowledge is never written, it is whispered. And when whispered, something is always lost, perhaps intentionally. So the myths warp, they twist, they become riddles. Every cosmology you encounter is only a faded reflection, a crooked copy of a knowledge that refuses to be fully grasped. The Orphic mysteries, the Egyptian symbols, the Vedic hymns, they all speak of an origin, yes, but they speak in code. Codes for which you do not always have the key. Or perhaps the key was thrown away on purpose, because the greatest secret is the one that cannot be spoken. But there they are, the fragments, the sparks that slip through the net of time. A mother who births the sky and then becomes night. A god who dies and his blood becomes rivers. An egg that cracks open and gives birth to light. a serpent that bites its tail and laughs. These are images, not explanations, whispers, not declarations. They do not explain, they evoke, and they leave you there wondering what they ever meant. And perhaps that's the whole point, that there is nothing to understand, only to listen. Ancient cosmologies don't tell you what the world is, they invite you to feel it, to dance within its confusion, to lose yourself in its spirals, to recognize, perhaps, that echo still vibrating beneath the background noise of your everyday life. An echo that whispers, "Don't believe everything you see." An echo that laughs, "The world is just a game, and you are part of it without knowing." An echo that comforts, "Even if everything is illusion, the illusion is real enough." And you remain there, between one fragment and another, between a crumbling certainty and a mystery yawning open. Sometimes you think you glimpse the design, sometimes you lose yourself in the weave of the unknown. But go on searching if you wish, or perhaps sit for a moment and listen. Maybe if you fall silent enough, that echo will speak to you again. But don't expect it to tell you the truth. Truth, if it exists, long ago learned to conceal itself where it can never be touched. See you in the next episode.